Much like when a fan comes up to me and asks whether I can sign their copy of All the Boys Love the Backdoor 5 Knock Knock Who's There, being recognised for a role is a pretty special feeling. It's why we have events in which celebrities can pat themselves on the back in lavish surroundings for a job well acted. I'm not bitter. I'm not. Yet time and time again, public backlash has reared its ugly head to say that this award should have gone to this person, it's gone to the wrong guy or girl, and blah 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 blah. And you know what? Sometimes those accusations are bang on the money. Yet this isn't that list. This is a list detailing when the actor won an Oscar, but not for the role that everyone wanted them to. Yes, I know, it's a little confusing. With this in mind, I'm Jules from Whatculture.com, and these are 10 actors who won Oscars for completely the wrong role. Number 10, Al Pacino, who won for Scent of a Woman, who should have won for Dog Day Afternoon. Pacino and shouting go hand in hand, so it was a bit weird to see him win an Oscar for Scent of a Woman, which just saw him doing a stock, intense role. It's not a poor film by any stretch, but it just didn't feel very special. Unlike Dog Day Afternoon, which is where Pacino shows a thoughtful and infinitely braver performance, which ends up being significantly more moving. It's intense, yes, but it's a lot less in your face and a lot more brooding. Dog Day Afternoon would go up against One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and lose, but you should seek out this film if you've not already given it a go. Number 9, Jennifer Connelly, who won for A Beautiful Mind, who should have won for Requiem for a Dream. A Beautiful Mind is a fantastic film, make no bones about it, but Connelly was much more engaging in her role in Requiem for a Dream. It's a devastatingly intense film and required so much from the actors, yet Connelly gave it in spades, almost to the point where you can believe the torment and anguish she's going through. In one film, she deals with a tortured mind, in another, she lives the torture, and the latter is just so much more rewarding, if not being totally exhausting to watch. Number 8, Sandra Bullock, who won for The Blind Side, but should have won for Gravity. While Sandra Bullock's performance in The Blind Side absolutely deserved credit, it's the kind of charitably written, consciously Oscar-baiting material that you can't help but feel a little bit cynical about. Sure, her acting was impressive, but that's nothing on the one-woman show that was Gravity. You get the sense that The Blind Side wouldn't have challenged Bullock in the slightest. The hair was easy to change, the accent was no real stretch, and it's hard not to appear so good when you're working with the mostly silent monolith of an actor that is Quentin Aaron. But in Gravity, she had to capture the entire audience. The entire success of the film depended solely on her performance, and making the audience feel the horror that she is experiencing is no easy feat. Gravity truly is a breathtaking film, and yet she was bypassed at the Oscars. Number 7, Whoopi Goldberg, who won for Ghost and should have won for The Color Purple. Some more cynical Oscar commenters might suggest that Whoopi Goldberg did win an Oscar for The Color Purple, but that it took 5 years for it to happen and a second great performance in Ghost to give the Academy their opportunity to right a wrong. Ghost is a good film, and Goldberg is excellent as the frazzled charlatan medium who unwittingly ends up in the midst of its romantic central plot, but it's barely Oscar-worthy. She's funny, certainly, and her hysteria is infectious, but there's little intimacy or intricacy to the performance. In stark contrast, her work in The Color Purple, which earned her a nomination, is a masterclass. She's spectacular, offering a poignant portrait that is captivating and inspiring, and absolutely deserves more recognition than Ghost ever did. And to think that it was her debut acting role is just jaw-dropping. Number 6, Leonardo DiCaprio, who won for The Revenant, but should have won for The Wolf of Wall Street, or Django Unchained, or What's Eating Gilbert Grape, or possibly The Aviator. Any of those four would be more worthy than the winner that was The Revenant, which is definitely brilliant, but in such a lesser shade. It feels like The Revenant was just a mender of a win, an acknowledgement of DiCaprio's career, rather than a worthy victory in its own right. It's a haunting performance, certainly, and you have to admire how impressively he puts himself through the ringer to make his performance feel authentic, but it's just not as impressive as some of his other work. His turn in The Wolf of Wall Street probably didn't win because it wasn't an Academy-friendly film, and Django Unchained is probably of the same ilk, but both grotesques would have been rightfully awarded the Oscars in a just world. They're stunning, muscular performances that captivate and scene steal like only DiCaprio in full flow can manage. And while there's less adversity in them, there's more theatre and more pure transformation, and that deserves just as much credit. Number 5, Jeff Bridges, who won for Crazy Heart, but should have won for The Big Lebowski. Crazy Heart feels just like another Career Acknowledgement Award win, after Jeff Bridges was nominated 4 times over his impressive career. His old gunslinger performance in Crazy Heart was good, no doubt, but it wasn't up to the best of his nominations. Crueler commenters would even say that it was a performance protected by artifice and manipulation, seeing as you can barely understand him. He should have won for his most iconic role in The Big Lebowski, which still stands as the finest ever Coen brothers performance and transforms what could have been just an unhinged mess of a narrative into a supreme stoner underdog romance. He's hilarious, playing it just straight enough and just outraged enough, and his dude abides as one of the single most memorable character creations in the history of cinema. Number 4. Robin Williams, who won for Good Will Hunting, but should have won for 1 Hour Photo. There's a fairly reasonable suggestion that Robin Williams should have won Oscars for all of his nominated roles, The Fisher King, Good Morning Vietnam, and Dead Poets Society being the ones he missed out on. But there's an even bigger case that he deserved wins for 2 unnominated performances. He could have won for Insomnia, and nobody would have called Injustice, but he absolutely should have won for his excellent, clawing performance as Cy the Photo Guy in 1 Hour Photo. It's a complete transformation of a performance, creepy and dangerous in its mundanity, and bubbling with something darker and more sinister underneath. He plays the role in a way that you can see him as a victim of the monster within him, and it's the lack of passionate outbursts that truly hammer home how messed up he is. Number 3. George Clooney, who won for Syriana, but should have won for The Descendants. It was only a matter of time before George Clooney would win an Oscar. After breaking out of ER and moving away from the early troublesome roles like Batman, he has developed into one of Hollywood's most charismatic leading men. And while his role in Syriana defies that star appeal more than his work in The Descendants, its intensity distracts from the fact that it isn't just as good a performance. There's a good deal more complexity to his confused take on grieving and repressed loss than there is in Syriana, but it was never the kind of performance that would have stood out enough to win. Number 2. Sean Penn, who won for Milk and Mystic River, but should have won for Dead Man Walking. Sean Penn absolutely didn't deserve his crowning glory to be in Mystic River, which robbed him a Best Actor Oscar, so it's a good thing that he then won for the excellent Milk 5 years later, which was probably pretty galling for Mickey Rourke, whose performance in The Wrestler would have probably won otherwise. But neither of those wins really deserved the gong as much as his turn in Dead Man Walking, which showed a perfect portrait of contrition, deep-eyed and seemingly cold, but with a depth to the still waters. There could have been major theatricality in the performance, but instead, Penn is a picture of restraint, dignified and ponderous as he allows the audience space to weigh up the weighty moral issues. It's just a shame that Nicolas Cage made Leaving Las Vegas the same year. And number 1, Christian Bale, who won for The Fighter, but should have won for American Psycho. There is no sense trying to diminish what Christian Bale did for his performance in The Fighter. It was another of his incredible bodily transformations, made even more impressive by the proximity to his turn in the Dark Knight trilogy. But you shouldn't really win Oscars for losing weight so quickly that it will have lasting effects on the rest of your life. The performance is a lot more than just the transformation, of course, but taking away the physicality is not even close to being as good as Bale was in American Psycho. In that explosive performance, he was a ball of barely repressed rage, narcissistic to an incalculable degree, swaggering, disaffected, and whip-sharp beneath a veneer-like exterior. In case you couldn't guess, I really like the film. There has never been a better portrait of a monster since then in cinema, and it's a performance that seems to be ignored next to his others because of the controversial nature of the material. But that is a major disservice to what Bale did. And that's our list. Got any other actors who won an Oscar but not for the right film? Well, let me know about it in the comments section below. And why not swing by Whatculture.com for more news and articles like this every goddamn day. As always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon.